Hey everyone, it's Nukin from the Republic here again, and welcome back to my channel. I've been getting a lot of questions on this topic, so here it is, an educational video on how to clear the Rancor using Zader. So there's a lot of videos out there on YouTube that have shown how to do it, but they are now out of date due to the recent fixes to Vader's Zeta leadership. I'll get a little bit more into that later. I had a series of videos on how to clear the Rancor in the past myself, but this will be the first time in which I break it down in detail. So what we're going to do in this video, I'm going to discuss about the changes to Zader, the teams to use in this raid, the mods to run. We'll take a look at the gameplay together, and I'll give you tips and strategies on how to be successful. So grab your favorite beverage of choice and sit down, because this is how you solo the Rancor. Alright, so the main reason why I'm making this video is because Darth Vader's leadership ability was recently fixed. So Darth Vader has a leadership called Inspiring Through Fear, and you can Zeta that ability. Now that Zetaing that ability will give him and his allies chances to remove turn meter if they have the Empire or Sith faction tag. And to really understand the fix, we have to go and we have to take a step back and look at the history of Darth Vader in the Rancor raid. So when we got Zetas, people started Zeting Darth Vader in early January, and that was the beginning of being able to clear the raid with Darth Vader. And what happened was there was a bug with Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader, and the bug was Empire and Sith characters, or characters with the Empire and Sith faction tags, had two opportunities to proc the leadership ability. So Darth Vader and Palpatine could sometimes remove like up to 40% turn meter on just one attack. So that was changed in mid to late February, and then what happened after that, they made phase 1 a little bit harder, but they introduced there was a new bug that got introduced, and that was the main bug that just got fixed. Now once you transition through a phase during this period of time where there was the bug, you got a higher likelihood to reduce turn meter. It wasn't more turn meter, it was just a higher opportunity to remove it. So you could basically clear phase 1 on manual, and then once you got to phase 2 or phase 3, you could hit the autopilot and then clear the remainder of the raid without even looking at your phone. So now both of those bugs have been fixed. Phase 1 has remained to be more difficult than it was before, and so now you have to be a little bit more tactical. You have to understand the raid a little bit more and build your team a little bit more strategically. So let's actually start talking about the team itself next. Alright, so here's the team here. I just want to talk about in general why you would want to run this team in general, and then talk about the team quickly in detail. First of all, Darth Vader is going to save you a lot of time over the course of a month, about 8 hours in fact, because the Teebo team requires about 45 to 60 minutes to clear the raid. This team can do it in 25 minutes on manual and about 15 to 20 minutes on auto, so that's one thing. Second of all, it's just more fun. The Darth Vader mechanics involved in this team are awesome, and you can switch out players, characters if you're getting bored. For example, you could take out Tarkin and put in Magma Trooper, or take out Shore Trooper and put someone else, so you can mix it up and keep things interesting. So the team in detail here, we have Darth Vader in the leader position, of course, removing turn meter. You have a small chance to remove turn meter. You have TIE Fighter Pilot landing tenacity down, which allows Darth Vader to land his dots and speed down. You have Shore Trooper there because eventually you're going to have bad RNG. Rancor is going to hit your team, he taunts, protects your team. He also heals your team up, which is nice. You have Grand Moff Tarkin, who was recently reworked. His turn meter removal now has a 100% chance to remove 50% turn meter, and his basic attack gives him potency, so he can remove turn meter even if tenacity down is missing. And lastly, you have Jyn Erso. She's pretty much the hero of the day. She's a better version of Teebo. You have 100% turn meter removal just about every other turn, and the combination of this team, you're able to even auto potentially if you can have fast enough characters with your mods. So that's basically the team in detail, and we can get more into the strategy when we talk about the gameplay footage. Alright, so let's look at the mods, and then we'll take a look at the Omegas afterwards, starting with Darth Vader, our leader. Of course, you want to run a crit damage set and a 2-piece crit chance set. I'm running a speed arrow, and I'm running a crit damage triangle, and then lastly I'm running a potency primary cross. Some good secondaries for him would be crit chance, offense, potency, things like that. Overall, he's running at 183 speed, 70% potency, 36% crit chance, and of course maximum crit damage. Moving on to Shore Trooper, he's running at 180 speed and 40% armor. He's running a speed set with a 2-piece defense set, running a speed arrow, running a protection triangle, and I'm running a tenacity cross. You can get by with a health or protection cross. I actually just ran this because that's all that I had to complete my 2-piece defense set. You can run a health primary triangle if you wish. Some good secondaries for him would be health, speed, defense, things like that. Moving on to Grand Moff Tarkin, we have a speed set with a 2-piece potency set. He's running a speed arrow, a offense triangle. That's because he has low crit chance, so I decided to just avoid critting and just go for all-out offense, and an offense cross as well with some secondary offense. Some good secondaries for him would be offense, speed, potency, a little bit of crit chance as well. The reason why you don't use a potency cross is because of his Omega ability. Moving on to TIE Fighter Pilot, he's running a speed set with a 2-piece crit chance set, running a speed arrow, a crit damage triangle, and a potency cross. The reason why you're running a potency cross is because you want to land that tenacity down. Some good secondaries would be offense, speed, crit chance, things like that. And then lastly we have Jyn Erso, the only non-Empire Sith character on the team. She's running a speed set with a 2-piece crit chance set. Overall she's running a speed arrow with some crit chance, some crit damage on the triangle. That's because she gets advantage a lot of the times and she's critting a lot. And lastly I'm running a offense cross because she doesn't need potency and I just want to be able to clear the Rancor a little bit quicker. Moving on to the Omegas, Darth Vader, you want to Omega the Force Crush ability because it gives you speed down 100% chance unless it gets resisted, of course. You can consider Omegaing the Culling Blade. It will just help you overall, but it's not necessary. For Shore Trooper, the only Omega that you could consider doing that would help you out a little bit would be to Omega his Regroup ability because it minuses the cooldown by 1, so you can just taunt and heal 1 turn quicker. For Grand Moff Tarkin, you want to Omega Ultimate Firepower. That makes this ability much more consistent. You then get a 100% chance to remove 50% turn meter. If you have extra Omegas, you can Omega his basic attack, but it is not necessary to clear the raid. TIE Fighter Pilot, you actually do not need to Omega any of his abilities. They're not necessary to be able to clear the raid. And then lastly, Jyn Erso, you want to for sure Omega that Truncheon Strike. This makes her able to gain turn meter from the amount removed, so if you're removing almost 100% turn meter, she'll take a turn again, which basically makes this a every other turn ability, even though it's a cooldown of 2. And then if you have extra Omegas laying around, you can do Rebel Counterattack and put this on TIE Fighter Pilot to guarantee tenacity down, because he needs to crit to land that, or Darth Vader to make sure you guarantee a maximum crit damage Culling Blade. Alright, so we finally made it to the gameplay footage. So here are some tips and some strategies on how to run this team efficiently and how to be able to maximize your damage in the raid and hopefully clear the raid. So we're in phase 3 of the Rancor raid. We just dropped below 50%. You want to try to hit that door lock right when you get under 50%. So now we have 3 morale bonuses. The third bonus is that you don't normally get if it's above 50% turn meter is it gives your team extra speed, so that's nice. Now we're down to 35% on the Rancor, and the way that you run this team is you want to make sure that you're giving the crit advantage up to heroes such as Tarkin, TIE Fighter Pilot, and Vader, depending on what you need. You would give advantage up to TIE Fighter Pilot if you just wanted to land tenacity down. You would give advantage up to Tarkin if Jyn was unable to use her Truncheon Strike ability because it's on cooldown. The Rancor has high turn meter, and you need a backup turn meter removal in Tarkin, and you give advantage up to Darth Vader because you have a Culling Blade ready to go, and you can do a maximum crit damage Culling Blade with Vader, which is quite nice, especially towards the end of the phase because there's been a lot of dots that have been applied. Some other strategies to involve with the door lock in phase 3 are you can make sure that you don't do any Air of Effect abilities and keep the door lock alive with yellow to red HP and use it as a backup button, like a failsafe if Rancor is about to take a turn and you don't have any characters that can remove turn meter. Alright, so I'm going to slow this down now to normal speed, and I can talk about a little bit more of the tactics in phase 4. You want to land tenacity down with TIE Fighter Pilot and remove turn meter as fast as possible. You want to put speed down with Darth Vader once tenacity down is laid down, and then you want to unload all your debuffs such as offense down and buff immunity. That will just have Darth Vader's Culling Blade do more damage and crit chance down from Shore Trooper as well. Then you want to remove turn meter when it's close to full, and when you have time, give advantage up to heroes like Darth Vader, such as now, to do a guaranteed crit Culling Blade, and then you want to repeat this process. Land tenacity down, taunt up, land your debuffs. You want to also make sure that you're not doing Vader's Culling Blade until you wait a few turns for Force Crush to come off cooldown, because it's a 4 or 5 turn cooldown, so you can do Culling Blade, but then you can't land speed down immediately. So the technique would be to do Force Crush, then wait 3 to 4 turns, then do the Culling Blade, and then you only have 1 or 2 turns of not having speed down or what have you. Another technique is actually to just never do Culling Blade, so you never lose speed down. That takes a little bit more time, and I find that it's not necessary, at least with this team. Part of the reason why this team shines is there's Shore Trooper, and he's going to be able to protect your team especially well in this phase, because you do not have any door lock to protect your team or have this emergency button when things are going bad. So that's another thing as well. On top of that, I've been able to solo phase 1 and phase 4 on auto with this team, so that's good as well because those phases don't have door locks. It came close in phase 4, but that was before I had some decent mods on them, and I haven't even done it since then because now I know it would be a piece of cake. So it is possible to solo the entire phase with this team on auto once you get some above average mods. Some things that you can do with Tarkin now, which are a little bit fancy, is just don't use his turn meter removal and use that as your backup button in phase 4, because Jin can pretty much do it on her own, and sometimes I found myself using Truncheon Strike with the Rancor having not too much turn meter, and sometimes I just did other abilities or just a basic attack in some of those circumstances. And the reason why that could work out well if you're saving your ultimate firepower with Tarkin is because he can do some big damage himself. I've seen a maximum of like 400k damage coming out of Tarkin in the Rancor raid specifically, and it's pretty easy to get him up to about 15 to 40k damage with his firepower just by doing a bunch of basics. So that's another thing to do. I'm not sure if this is bugged, but the TIE Fighter Pilot lands his tenacity down when he crits, and even it seems like potency isn't even involved, like it's almost guaranteed. So if you want to use Jin and TIE Fighter Pilot, that is a good combo. Of course, we talked about the Darth Vader combo with Jin, which we just saw there again. And any other things that you need to worry about with the Rancor is that you need to make sure that you are protecting Jin. So sometimes if you don't have taunt and Rancor takes a turn, there is a small chance the Rancor will focus fire her and actually kill her. So this is especially important if you're using a Gear 8 or Gear 9 Jin. I have her at Gear 10, and that seems to be alright, but I've heard circumstances if people are using a low Gear Jin that she could potentially be taken out, and that would make this very difficult, because without her I don't think you could be able to solo the Rancor raid. Alright, so that pretty much wraps things up for this video. By now you should have finished your beverage of choice or had another, because it's been quite a long one. We covered a lot of topics in this video, so I just wanted to really quickly recap what we talked about. We talked about using a Vader team in the Rancor raid and why you should use a Zader team over a Teebo team in the Rancor. We talked about the history of Vader in this raid, and we talked about the optimal team to use, which is the team that you're watching right now, and the capability of this team autoing the raid. I mentioned about the mods to run for this team and some slight variations and secondaries you should shoot for. And lastly, we went over gameplay tips and techniques that you can use to utilize to be successful in phases 3 and phase 4. So I hope that you enjoyed watching this video and learned a thing or two, and if you did, please drop a like on the video and subscribe to my channel to see future content. If you have any questions, just drop a comment below or follow the Discord link in the description to come chat with me and some of my guildmates. So that's it, guys. Nukin signing out. You're welcome.
Then I'm watching like Randy. The chopper go out to the granny. This nigga pull up your bandit. The killers understand it.